Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter 436. It is the fourth day of the week, aka the Buster Cannon workout. I feel very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, which is a continuation of the last episode, which is the War on Beauty, part 2. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because I don't think I have probably finished what I wanted to say in the last episode, as it was a little bit rushed, but I will use this episode to continue on my thoughts and opinions about the War on Beauty, as there are many things that encompass this, as this isn't just a one particular thing, as it might start off with certain things like buildings and technologies like that, but things just slowly devolve and get worse and worse and uglified as time progresses. And then, of course, we get people in our society to tell us, oh, you have to accept this, you have to accept that. When in reality, I think innately we understand, no. We understand that this is ugly and this is beautiful. And I think that we have allowed people to curtail what is beautiful talk a little too long and a little too much about what is and what isn't considered beautiful. And the fact is that a lot of what they don't consider beautiful is beautiful, but they won't allow it to be that way because they want to have the dominion on something like this. You can see something along the lines when you talk about, in very similar terms, when it comes to good and evil. You can see it in physiognomy, see this video about that, but I don't want to get too into the good and evil aspect of it, because I think that whilst beauty can be good or evil both ways, and ugly can be good or evil, it just depends, of course. But when it comes to the spiritual manifestations of that upon the soul in your manifesting itself within the physical realm, most of the time there are things that will make a person a little uglier if they are doing things that weigh upon them in their soul. But that's kind of a different story for a different day. I wanted to go more into just the general aspect of beauty and how we are being pushed away from the standards that we had once set. Sure, there are certain things that have to come up with the times, but I think that because of the distillation of what is considered beautiful has kind of made it so that there have been disparaging scales as to what is beautiful or not. The amount of just between even something like the genders, you'll get something where, the bog standard average 5, or if you would like to go with mid girl, will have their ego inflated to believe that they are the Queen of England or something along those lines, or the hottest thing since sliced bread, really. And it's an interesting concept because you see the consequences of this over attempt to beautify everybody, and then the under attempt to the complete opposite of that with men, where any guy that's 6 or below is basically not even a human, and that's kind of a different conversation for a different day. That little part, we'll get into that part some other day, but this is just more about the lack of the change in how that skewed not only specific gender dynamics, but as well as made it so that now we have a whole host of new problems because we have determined what is beautiful is completely different than what could actually be the standard of beauty. And why sometimes people have also looked too deep into the standard of beauty and not realized that possibly that it isn't necessary. The people that are making this aren't necessarily the people that should be making it. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that and a lot of other things when we get some other base. All right, so started this day off with good mornings, which are pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. The War on Beauty Part 2. I guess I don't have a subtitle for this one, but this is basically a continuation of the previous episode where I wanted to just keep discussing the idea of the War on Beauty. So the next part that I'll say that is probably fundamentally important on this is the fact that the importance of the soul when it comes to beauty. When we look at things that lack the soul, the care for the actual want in making something beautiful, there is soul and care into it. It's why when we look at certain things that are made by nature versus things that are man-made, those that are made by nature give us such wondrous and joy that we can understand it inherently, rather than things that are man-made, which are soulless, can be constructed by anything and anyone, can really be demolished and not be missed. I think that that's a very important aspect of it. Not to say everything that's man-made can't have soul in it, but a lot of the things that are happening nowadays, whether it be people, places, things, buildings, anything, art even, if it's missing the soul, then it's missing the key element and factor that makes it so real, so vividly interesting, that will make it so that people will actually see it for what it is rather than the thing that it is just taking up. So for example, one of the big ones that I would say that is an example of this is AI art. Nothing necessarily wrong with AI art. I will make an episode entirely based off of it. But one of the bigger things that you can see with a lot of AI art is the lack of soul. It just does things to do things. It's not like it's bad or inherently bad or anything like that. But the lack of soul makes itself obvious when you look at these things. There is nothing crazy. It's very surface level. And that goes along with a lot of the stuff that happens with this. I'm not even necessarily saying that people themselves that are in quote unquote beauty or beautiful are the only people with souls. But at the same time, you have to look at the people that are on the opposite end of the direction, that are, let's say, not good looking, who want to make sure that they are seen as pretty as the other people, and thus trying to devour the souls of those around them in a certain sense. It's like a soul sucking that they end up doing from those who don't deserve it, you know? And so it's just a interesting dynamic, because you can see that it's just something that happens when it comes to things being beautiful, or the war on it. The things that once had the innate ability to endure emotions from people, whether it be a sign, a neon sign, or just the way that a building looks, or the way that a logo looks, something that evokes a feeling. Nowadays, if you see a logo or a building or anything like of that nature, it doesn't invoke any of those things. It invokes a next corporate thing, or a corporatized dollar amount that is just trying to get the next amount of money, and the easiest thing to be able to replace and copy and paste to make sure that the bottom line is a little higher than it was the year before. There is nothing to it. It dilutes the rest of the feeling that once was there for beauty, the things that would take years, sometimes lifetimes, in order to finish and make sure that it looks correct. Churches are a perfect example of this, where you have beautiful structures that can still last centuries on as beautiful things that people want to visit, versus the modern day structure that might be fine, obviously, because it's still a nice building, but it is nothing like it once was, where people were literally dedicating their lives to something that they wouldn't even see the end of. And those types of things don't happen. If it's not done yesterday, then it's already too late, type of thing. And there's like a certain rush to certain things like that make it so that there's no allowing for the nature of the soul to allow the beauty to actually come out of things, because we are so intoxicated by the need for it to be already done, that it doesn't allow for things to flourish and really be able to come to life and allow itself to be beautiful, rather than just be punished for taking its time to be able to fully flourish itself. Things with character that once were surrounding the world, things that had integrity that you can understand, is very tough to see nowadays, because now it's all just a lack of being, a lack of personality, just whatever you can. All cities look alike nowadays. If you can be in the middle of Texas or in the middle of St. Louis, it's all probably going to look the same. And this goes from the bottom to the top, regardless. The only thing that might be different are some structures like the St. Louis Arch or something like that. Things like that, yes, they might be individualized, but at the end of the day, a city is all the same, really. They've all taken the soul out of it, really. And the worst part is that people will lie and say, oh, these cities and things are just beautiful nowadays. They're so modern and sleek, when in reality, if everything that under the sun is very beautiful, then nothing is. But we'll talk about the beauty standards in a different episode. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercise is not filmed, none. Exercise is skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. The War on Beauty Part 2. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because this is something that fundamentally speaks to the soul in personally, because I think a lot of people see this but say nothing about it. Yes, we all have our own personal styles or whatever, we all have our facial quirks or whatever the fuck you want to put ourselves into a grading scale, right? But objectively, we can look at certain things and say, wow, this is truly beautiful. And look at other things and say, wow, this is truly ugly. That's why certain things like AI art, although can be super complicated and crazy and like very interesting looking, lacks the soul that things like statues and art actually created by a person really entail. And we'll get to AI art in a different episode. That's a whole different story. But you can sense the lack of soul within it. And I think that that's the thing, is that people are trying to minimize that aspect of it. I'm going to use an example of this because this is a very particular example I remember from a long time ago, which was from America's Next Top Model, which is, I only watched one season of that show, but the point was that Tyra Banks talked about having a presence to yourself whenever you're a model, right? And that presence is something that is so, you don't know what it is, but once you see it, you understand it. And it's very hard to encapsulate what that is. But certain women, particularly men too, but women can tap into that. But the thing is, it's very actually little the amount that can actually tap into it. So it is something that goes in beyond the soul, the perception beyond that. It goes beyond what is the conventional, and it turns into something beautiful. And I think that that's the big thing that is lacking nowadays. The understanding of what this little tinge of the soul that makes it so something becomes beautiful, rather than something that becomes either boring, mundane, or the same. The reason why I bring this particular thing up is because a lot of the women that are on, like, let's say Instagram models lack this thing. They are doing the numbers that they know they're going to get, accentuating the things that they know they can accentuate. It's not anything that is soulful. I don't look at these women and say, oh, beautiful. I just say, oh, another Instagram model trying to get famous. That's it. There's no essence behind it, Even though the female form might be good looking, there is nothing behind it. And that's the thing. Very few people can tap what that is. And I think that most people, when they see it, they understand it. And when they understand it, they can look at high art and understand, oh, this was made with soul, this was made for a reason. And that's where the beauty comes into these things, and why it is so terrible that we've become to the point where it is either fast casual or lacking of any type of actual beauty. I mean, look, I like this room, but I wouldn't call this room very beautiful. I don't have like what I would consider that. I'd have like giant pieces of art just randomly scattered around, but that's just how I see it as. Of course, I would want to change that, but that's beside the point. I understand what my stylistic nature is. It wouldn't be necessarily beautiful. Now, if I had a giant statue of like Michelangelo, then we'd start talking, but then that's something where you can tell that there was a lot of work and effort and soul put into something like that. So it puts it into another echelon that I could not recreate if I tried in that medium, unless I took decades of trying to figure out how to marble and chisel down a marble statue. I mean, it's just beyond me. But I think that we, in now society in particular, wants to dumb that down, make it so that everybody has the ability to create something beautiful, when in reality, yes, you can create something that's good, but it should be very rare to create something that is beautiful or create something that touches the soul, because even though we might be able to do it with essence in certain things, I think to be able to actually go in and command such a thing is a very, very few and far between actual achievement. You get it whenever you see it, or the magnum opus of someone, you get it. But that's why I'm very frustrated with today's beauty standards, or at least the war on beauty, because I think that it's just bogging down the rest of society, bringing it down so that either everybody gets a participation trophy, or that the ugliness gets accepted too. Because then, if we accept the outside ugly, we get to accept the inside ugly, which very different, but still very bad. But anyways, with that being said, though, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one was a random one, but actually, this was a continuation of yesterday's video. So if you had any other thoughts and opinions about this, please let me know in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there and stay warm. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.